Muhammad Buhari yesterday, and then where we are talking about. Let me bring it. I'm trying not to say it. You knew. Hold on. After he made that government accusation that you received a billion or thereabout naira from a presidential candidate, here you are, stakeholders in the PDP, principal officers in the PDP, coming out to write a letter signed by them saying that they actually received money. And most of them claiming they don't know what the money is about. So the party is saying it's for house. I don't want to talk about it, but I'm talking about the integrity of these individuals who boldly comes to the public to say, oh, the millions of naira was paid into my account. I received these millions. And all along, you didn't realize that that money you needed to ask what it's about. Do we still have law enforcement agents in this country? Because what are you talking about? You've had this money for this long until Governor Wike made the accusations that this is what is going on. Maybe out of fear, for some reason, maybe to really destroy the PDP, but that's their problem anyway. But I'm looking at, what does this say to us? People holding principal office in Nigeria, in one of the strong political parties, coming and saying, I received this money that time, but I'm just saying it to the public, I've refunded. Please, let's quickly get to have your take on this.
Well, what's happening in the People's Democratic Party is not strange. Some of us who have been following the trend expected what's happening now. Just that the public is a bit surprised at what's happening. But you could tell that it definitely would have gotten to this point where it is. I had said before that the People's Democratic Party is in a conundrum. They're in chaos. And that chaos is self-inflicted, and if it's not properly managed, it will lead to the extinction of the party. Because this is the national level politics we're talking about, and it is happening right at the placenta of the party, which is at the National Secretariat. I want to ask certain questions. Like you rightly recalled, Governor Wike had come on air to say certain money was given to the national chairman, which was not put into the party's account. And his allegation were that this money was given before the national convention. And this is something that happened months ago. And then suddenly you begin to see members of the National Working Committee, write that letter and put in public. Just a week after that revelation was made. And when you read the content of the letter, you begin to laugh. Somebody says, owing to this revelation, which is flying on newspaper, I had to scroll to my debit alert.
You saw that, right?
To discover that certain money was sent to my account from the national...
We're not talking about bank deductions of 6 naira and thereabouts.
That you could overlook 38 million, 36 million, and somebody tells you I have to scroll through my, alerts in my phone to notice that I got such money transferred to my account. And because it is eliciting reaction, I am sending back the money. It is on that grounds you're sending back the money.
So do you think we still have law enforcement agencies?
It tells to how terrible our institutions are.
We still have PFCC.
I don't think we have institutions.
Or ICPC as a case.
I do not think we have strong institutions. And at this point, one is forced to believe that these institutions have just merely become, elements of political witch hunts, because you only see them active and, doing their job when it has to do with some political enemy. How would some people, group of persons, come up to write letters about monies in such volume, monies that were sent to you months ago, and then you suddenly say you just discovered that such money was sent to you? Are you serious? Is it that
we'll talk more on this? Let me quickly get to Ray, because we have INEC saying they are vigorously monitoring election spending. We'll come to that. But Ray, let me quickly bring this to you before we go into the first issue we have officially for this morning. So after Governor Wike's revelation about 7 days ago, we have stakeholders, critical stakeholders, principal officers rather in the PDP coming out to tell us they did receive some millions into the accounts. Oh, they were not aware. They didn't know what it was about. And now this is coming, like I said, after Governor Wike's revelation that some money was paid to Ayu by a presidential flag bearer in Lagos. And then as if that is not enough, we have Governor Wike visiting the president that was all cheeky from ear to ear and all of that. And then all this is happening within a space of 1 week, and this is just about a day. But prior to that time, a National Working Committee member did say that these things are going to happen. Let's quickly get your take on this, Ray.
Oh, thank you, Vivian. Obviously, anyone who is grown up and who has been watching the politics in Nigeria by now should have understood that PDP is like a cartel. So as Wike lost out in the presidential primaries and did not get the VP slot and a lot of things, asking for the national chairman to resign, that they should balance powers within the PDP. So he's bent in revealing a lot of things, and in terms of maybe making sure that people pay for their deeds, which he is part of. Because the money they has been sharing money is not a new thing in for us to know that PDP has been sharing money and sharing money. That is the only thing they are very good in. So they are ripping Nigerians people apart. You know, they don't maybe consider the common people who are suffering and languishing everywhere around Nigeria. So whether the money was before the primaries, they are a corrupt bunch of people, a party that it was corruption that get them out of government in 2015, and they still have not learned anything. They still have not changed any internal democracy. Things are still continuing the same. If we come about EFCC, which you asked, the EFCC, obviously they do what they are asked for. Don't forget that EFCC doesn't act unless if they get alert. So somebody has to alert them first that something is going on, and before they can actually go and investigate. If party officials or the chairman or whatever gives them money, if you put money, transfer money into somebody's account, if there is no alarm that something is going on, they might not be able to act, even if maybe through the banks they know that money has been transferred. They don't just go looking for it. But if somebody has accused somebody that there is corruption, there is something happening, then they can go and investigate. So at this point in time, I will absolve them of any wrongdoing at this time. But they mainly are very partisan. They work for the government of the day. They do witch hunting. Sometimes we can see it. But at the end of the day, I think what is happening now is actually maybe opening up the wounds and opening up a lot of things in PDP to tell Nigerians that this party, this group of people, it is only about them. They are just basically in transactional leadership, transactional politicians. They are not transformative politicians or transformative leaders in any way to help Nigerians to get out of this hook and get out of this deep hole that we are currently in. So Wike he's still gonna do more. His group is still gonna do more. Obviously, those national members of National Working Committee, they are just maybe lying from their nose. They know that money came into their account. They were all aware. Is probably maybe they belong to Wike camp and they are bent in and making sure that they reveal a lot of things. Because if you send somebody money into somebody's account and the person have to show the money, maybe the person will not have much problem. But it's just maybe a game that they are playing, a game for themselves, you know, not for the benefit of Nigerians. But at the end of the day, if Nigerians are very wise and very open, they will understand this is going to swing for the benefit of the many, not just the few of them, because they're going to destroy themselves for the advantage of Nigerians to move forward, and they will must have to keep on learning from this, and that is where the media comes in, you know. So let them continue to expose themselves, and the Nigerians will continue to see, and the people who have ear will hear, because not everybody. Some people will still be calling them heroes, and they still be following them, but they are money bags.
We will get to follow up with Vincent and Nnamdi later on in the day on this issue, because I would really want to see how far they dissect this issue. A lot of people are saying, could this be the end of PDP, just like Ray has just spoken? Well, maybe, no, we hope not, because the reason we don't just want an opposition that is like the sitting ruling party. We want all kinds of opposition so that people can understand that politics is a serious game. But again, we keep having this conversation. Now, speaking of the PDP and the charade that surrounds some areas in PDP, let's go to Abia State now. We have a governor that's been there for about approximately 8 years, because in a few months it's going to be 8 years in office. And then he is from Abia State, part of Abia State where we're going to tell a story about. We're talking about none other than Governor Okezie Ikpeazu, who said that everyone listening to this, that he would have failed as a governor if he concludes his tenure without fixing flood menace in Ariaria Market. All right, you could be wondering what this is about, right? Well, a lot of news media had this as he has given a 10 million or thereabout to fix it, but that's not what our interest is. He just indicted himself, but you're wondering how? So there's no Abia State without Aba, and there's no Aba without Ariaria Market. I'm quoting the governor verbatim. He said, no governor will succeed without paying attention to trade and commerce as far as Abia is concerned. So he said, we will fix the flood problem at the market. Ariaria Market is at the lowest level of Aba, but the flood problem will soon be a thing of the past. I will fail as a governor if I conclude my tenure without fixing the flood menace at the Ariaria Market. I have taken steps to fix the problem within a month. There was no motorable road in Aba whenever I guess he meant when he assumed office in 2015. He said, this is why we did the Ekwera Zoo, Akwa Ibom, Ehere, Ukebu, and Fox Road to boost access to Ariaria Market. My producers are getting us images as we talk about this on what Ariaria Market looks like right now. So it makes better sense. Now, the governor also pledged to complete the rehabilitation of Fox Road, stressing that his administration has already mapped out 1 billion, okay, not 10, 1 billion for the project. So he said those who mocked us will see a new Fox Road. He said, we will also complete the rehabilitation of Fox Road. I have already mapped out 1 billion for the project. I will tackle the Ariaria flood issue permanently. We must ensure that the flood problem is solved. If I fail to do it, then I didn't do anything. Okay. So between now and the next 1 month, all water channels in Aba will be opened. He charged traders to stop disposing waste materials into the drainage channels to boost the water flow in the area. Now, chairman of the Ariaria Market, International Market, Elder Emeka Igara, expressed his gratitude to the governor for coming to the aid of the traders. Earlier, Anyanwu Austin, Ego Samuel, and Chibubi Godwin, who also spoke on behalf of the market victim, thanked the governor and pleaded with him to open the drainage channel leading to the Ifobara Pond to boost water flow in the market. That's my state's governor. Let me just announce to you, everyone. That's my before people start calling me out. Is that not your state? So I'm taking my loss already.
Very
so
interesting.
let me start from there.
You know.
So you've been in office. Governor Okezie Ikpeazu is from Aba. That's his home base. And I said here, when he was coming into power, a lot of people were happy. Okay, Aba could actually get a lift because this is their son. So it's understandable that. So, but alas, few months to leave office, Nigerians, home and brother, have been calling out for this market. This is a market that does not just serve Abia State or South, it serves the whole region, as a matter of fact. This is our own Balogun, this is our own Middle Idumota, whatever market you can think of in Lagos. This is where we can go get things that industrial materials and what have you. So the governor sits down for 7 months, 7 years, approximately 8 years, because this is campaign months. He's coming now to tell us that he's investing 1 billion to fix all of these excesses. We almost lost my younger sister's corpse on that road while we're taking her to go bury about 2 years ago. So this is a very familiar story. So when I read this story, I asked myself, really? So Governor Okezie Ikpeazu, you knew that something could be done. But again, here we are. He wants to fix the flood in Ariaria Market, Fox Road, all the roads to that place.
Very unfortunate to realize.
No, you think so?
Yes, I think so. Because if you want to think about it, the governor is assuring that this administration would not end without him fixing that market, the flood issue. So you want to do some little mathematics. You know, every year in the 7 years the governor has spent is 12 months. You then calculate 12 months times 4 years of this first tenure.
Yeah.
That's about 48 months.
Mm-hmm.
And then you want to double it, you're having about 96 months. So let's remove the remaining months to the end of the tenure. You have about 90 months. The governor had about 90 months. 90 months to fix the challenges of a market that would constitute or even constitutes the greatest internal generated revenue for Abia State. Because I know what goes into that market. That's like the hub of Aba. That's what makes Aba what it is. You have had 90 months in office. You didn't fix it. And now you suddenly say you want to fix it, and it will be a sin for you to leave the office without fixing it. I tell you what, there's a reason to that decision. The governor wants to go to Senate, and he knows that these are the issues that will confront him in campaigning to go to the Senate. Because why would you suddenly say you want to fix it? No, if this man had fixed this problem in his first tenure, you know that he would have tripled the income, the IGR of the states. Because people lose money, people lose their properties each time we get to this rainy season. That place is a terrible place to go to. And because it is not conducive, business influx has reduced over the time. People have losses. And then you come to say you're giving 10 million naira. What's 10 million naira? 2 shops in that market.
He said 1 billion to fix the roads.
No, yes, he said he gave 10 million, as an intervention, to people who may have lost their properties and had challenges.
Okay.
What is 10 million, for Christ's sake? You've been to the market. You know that 2 shops in that place, the value of properties in 2 shops in that market is more than 10 million.
Well, but we have market leaders saying thank you to him for
that. Is the kind of psychopathy we see in the politics of Nigeria, where people sing praises and hero worship even the oppressor. You can't be a governor for this number of years, and you know that market is one of the things that makes Aba iconic, and you have refused to fix it. And the governor was not wise enough to recognize that in fixing that market, you would have opened more space for investors to come in. You have expanded the base of the market because the place is not organized, it's so disorganized. The moment you organize that market, you're going to create room. But there are persons who have phobia for going to that market, even when they have their needs there. But they have phobia going there because of the environment. I have been to that place. And you know what? The last time I visited there, I think it was some years back. And it was during the rainy season. It almost got to a situation where you need a boat to even, sail within the market because of flood. And then suddenly the governor says it would be a sin for me to leave office without fixing it. After spending 7 years in office, and that would have generated so much money for you. So you didn't have the sense to think economically, to see that fixing that market would increase the IGR of the state. Suddenly you want to fix it because you know that you'll be confronted during your campaigns. People are going to come at you. You were governor. What would you do differently for your senatorial district if you were governor for 7-8 years and you couldn't fix the major income hub in your senatorial district as a chief executive of the state? So what more would you do for us being a senator? I think those are the questions that the governor is envisaging. That's number one. You think so? I am certain. I mean, you think about it. How would you be in a state as chief executive and you have such a market in your own senatorial district?
Are you asking me that question?
No. I'm trying to.
That's a rhetorical question.
It is. I'm trying to shift your mind to think the way I'm thinking now. So that you will arrive at my conclusion.
No. You're looking at it from the political angle. Before I come to you, Vincent, can we look at it from another angle? If we were running a true federalism, for instance, do you think where you don't go cap in hand, and the federal government don't have to give you revenue generated from crude from states like the Niger Delta state, at least oil producing state, for instance. I know Abia State partly does too, but if you were meant to generate your IGR as a state and run your state and give maybe a 10% like paying off tithe to the federal government to keep the unity of the country and all of that, do you think that you will have a governor of a state like Abia State and he or she would allow the major source of IGR go down the drain like we have seen with Ariara or Abba generally?
He probably would have been forced to think reasonably and ensure that market becomes it beats to an international standard. But then it's unreasonable. It's unreasonable because it still does not change the fact that he has a responsibility to ensure that within his administrative ability and capabilities, he increases the IGR of the state. Because the state cannot be said to have had sufficient funds. Abia State needs money. There's a lot you could do with money in Abia State. So a reasonable government ought to be thinking in the direction of generating money, doing things that will help them generate money. And this market is one of the things that would have given Abia State its greatest financial strength. But it was ignored. The governor was not responsible. So constitution and political framework didn't have to force him to think economically to the advantage of his state and his people. What makes him responsible as a governor is to ensure that every opportunity he has to generate money and meet his mandate, the demands of his mandate, he does it. I mean, how come Lagos is taking so much advantage of its population and the activities within the Lagos territory? Because they know the essence of fun. They need money. Why wouldn't the governor think in this direction? Did he have to wait for the country to say, look, you must have to generate money and give 10% to federal government for him to know that the state needs funds? Okay, now
you're asking a lot of questions. Makes no sense. You're asking a lot of questions, but you also need to realize that we've elected this man into power without even making the right demands. What was his antecedents? We're here expecting that, okay, Zigbazu should know that you should fix Abia State. Who was he? What was his antecedent? So all these questions, but I'd like us to go to Vincent now so he can bring Ray into this conversation because I trust me they're endless. But over to you now, Vincent.
Well, just as you rightly pointed out, let me direct my question to Ray. Ray, of course, this is a revelation. What does it speak of the preparedness of our leaders who are vying for office when someone comes into office and few months after 7 years, few months to the expiration of your tenure, you now have an afterthought that, oh, I need to do this. What's your take? What's the level of preparedness of our leaders?
Thank you, Vincent. I think this is the major problem we are having within Nigeria because we have ill-prepared leaders everywhere. People who are half-baked, who doesn't understand what leadership entails. Because we have been doing fixing, from 1999 till date. Abia State has been governed by a PDP-led government. Only I think in 2007 they have a little bit of spin with PPA, which was rolled out by then Jose Carlo when he left PDP, and the man went back to PDP after a few months or something like that. But this Ariara issue has been going on and going on, But I tell you what, in as much as those people are very ill prepared, they don't understand leadership, because leadership is about positive inspiration, positive influence, and positive impact. And if you have none of them to provide for the people, you have no business to be in leader. But because we are doing a politics of fixing and selecting and putting people in power where they understand. But as an optimist, as somebody who is a leadership expert, I can tell you that I'm happy that he eventually made that statement and is absorbing himself of those wrongdoing, because it is better late than never. And if it can be done within the next 8 months that he has left in office, that might be commendable. But at the same time, because they say that weeping may endure for the night, but joy comes in the morning. If the Abia people will eventually get joy in 1 month or 2 months, as he said it will be good. But here is the thing. The problem is that this issue mainly lingers on during the rainy season. And now we are somehow trying to come out of rainy season. By the end of October, November, it might become dry season. Now, if that road or that thing is done, he will not be in office to be able to test it, to be able to know whether what has actually done did any job, any work, whether it is working. Because if maybe it was done in his first tenure or second tenure, then he can actually be in office and be able to monitor the evaluation and those kind of things. So they might actually do a half-baked job to campaign for his office as becoming a senator or something like that. Because I don't really see why someone will be a governor for the whole of the state, maybe whether it is a 17 or 20 local government areas for like maybe 8 years, and then you want to go and occupy Senate for just maybe 4 local government or 5 local government. So it's a kind of a descending, not actually ascending. Because after being a chief executive for a state, you're supposed to be going for a larger constituency. But they don't really understand. They just want to stay in power because they are not meant for the people. Even in that don't forget as well, in that area, I think the senator representing that place as well is the Reverend Eyinaya Baribe as well, you know, who is somehow loved because he's quite very outspoken in Senate. He is from PDP. I don't know whether he should be speaking out for that, those kind of things for the governors. But the problem is that when we have governors who are prepared, chief executive who are prepared, they are emperors to themselves. They appoint people. They don't want to listen to anybody because once you start advising them or you start telling them, they keep you aside, they put you out. Because a governor doesn't know it all. So when you are a chief executive, you need to bring in people who will be able to work with you, and you need to be open and honest. You need to be able to have the body language to show people that you are actually here to listen, to learn, to be able to work together with people. Because in that state, you know, I'm sure we have commissioner for works, we have commissioner for environment, we have commissioner for transport, we have a commissioner for whatever you might call it, you know, they're supposed to be seeing what is happening. So now, if people are not really reporting, or they are reporting to the governor, or maybe they are not looking into those things, it's not only the governor that has failed, but as the chief executive, everything falls on your back. But the situation whereby it is government politics of the winner takes it all, you are the chief executive, you are the emperor, you parade himself as whatever that is going on. You know, they do whatever that they think it is important to them, and that people in our area is a very hub place that should be generating a lot of money for Abia State, and for him not to have understood it for these 7.5 years, you know, is just totally unacceptable, and it just shows them that.
And honestly, that's just the best word. It's unacceptable.
Yeah.
There is no reasoning around this.
Yeah.
And well, they are the PDP camp with Governor Wike, so we'll keep watching them and see how all of this pans out. But as an Abia State woman, and it breaks my heart, but I mean, it's what it is. But let's look at the issue of insecurity quickly. Buhari government lacks will, shows obvious ethnic agenda in tackling insecurity. This according to Afenifere. So at the inauguration of 33 local government executive members of Afenifere in Ibadan, Oyo State, chairman of Afenifere, a Yoruba social cultural political organization in Oyo State, Dr. Bola Adetunji said, quoting him verbatim, our country, Nigeria, and the Yoruba nation is passing through perilous times. Yoruba nation, as it were, is under siege by obvious means of banditry, kidnapping, raping of our innocent women, and invasion of our farmlands by Fulani under a government that is obviously pursuing an ethnic agenda of invasion and conquering Nigeria and subjecting other ethnic groups and putting them under their imperial subjugation. Now, this current administration of President Buhari, he said, is showing lack of will and an obvious ethnic agenda to tackle the sinister state of insecurity in the country. He said farmers are being attacked, maimed and killed by herdsmen, and even after being arrested and handed over to the security agents, they are released by orders of the power from above to continue their nefarious activities. He said, Our farmers are deserted by innocent farmers out of fear of attacks or kidnapping, thus fueling food insecurity in the land. The events of today, he said, the inauguration of the executive is to galvanize Yoruba people to a fresh consciousness, to reset the injustice, subjugation, and obvious ethnic agenda of subjugation. Again, President Muhammad Buhari is being indicted for clearly not doing what he did to do on insecurity. But the obvious fact in this conversation, Doom, is the fact that if you look at it, either way you look at it, there's that ethnic bias. Everyone has been pointing at this. Oh, he's the grand patron of the Mieti Allah Katsu Reras Association. What has he done? What, in your estimation, do you think the president of Nigeria have brought to the table when it comes to tackling the issue of herdsmen attack and its impact in agriculture around Nigeria?
Well, the issues are one too many. First of all, this ethnic sentiment is depleting us on several fronts: economically, politically, religiously, and all of that. The president has not been able to save himself from the sentiment of being a core northerner, to stand firm on issues as the president of this country. And that is telling on the insecurity issues. And so far as we have these insecurity issues, we would not make any headway as a country, because there's a lot that depends on a good security architecture for a country to be stable. We have closed the border for importation of food items, and it is part of this administration's policy to encourage agricultural production in the country so that we can depend on our own agricultural product as a country. But unfortunately, adverse to that policy, the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, President Muhammadu Buhari, and his administration have failed to tackle insecurity problem. And insecurity of lives and property automatically leads to insecurity of food substances. People can no longer go to their farms. They can't access their farms. And the Southwest, majorly, they are known for their agricultural strength. Even here in the South, of course, the common thing in Nigeria is that we're into agriculture. And when you cannot provide security, you allow people to take their cattle into people's farms, invade people's farms, and then they eat up the crops, and you're not doing anything about it. And then the same government is saying we want to ensure food security in the country, so we have stopped importation. Let us grow and feed ourselves from what we grow. It looks very contradictory. It looks like we don't have, a cohesive system. And the president himself knows that he has failed when it comes to providing security for this country. We cannot grow with this kind of sentiment. We cannot grow when the president cannot save his sentiment from his responsibility as the president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. So I want to add my voice, lend my voice to, what Afen Jerry has said. The president has failed to provide that security we need. And that security we need, or we needed, is what would have guaranteed the security of other things in this country. For instance, contractors cannot even feel comfortable to go to their work site because they're not sure they wouldn't be kidnapped. People are scared coming to invest in Nigeria because they're not sure what will happen next. For Christ's sake, what is wrong in having cattle ranches? Agreeing with communities for these persons to be settled in a particular place, and close to those places, they generate money, pay to the state and federal government. Why do they have to move around? And against that, people are discovering that these people's interest is even beyond the cattle rearing. They carry guns around, they kill people, they kidnap people. There is no justification for it. So the president clearly has failed on one of the very key things he promised Nigerians, which is security. I don't want to even talk about corruption.
Oh yeah, please let's not.
But
let's not talk about corruption. Please, let's not talk about.
And they cannot say otherwise.
If you talk about corruption, we're not going to leave the show today. We'll just have to take before they've been sent.
Well, Ray, let me come to you with respect to this livestock production and crop farming. Usually, ideally, this is is supposed to be a complementary system of production whereby the crop production will be providing for the livestock, while livestock will be also providing some for the crop production. But in this case, why is Nigeria? Why do you think this government is finding it very, very difficult to actually embrace modern ways of animal husbandry and holding back to the traditional system of pastoralism?
Yeah, thank you. It is it is painfully annoying to hear this kind of thing still happening in Nigeria, a situation of insecurity, and the people cannot go to their farms to be able to produce what they eat, what they can actually sell to be able for other people to eat as well. Because a country, a nation that does not have food is one of the basic things that you can actually give someone to be able to do, because according to Abraham Maslow in his hierarchy of needs, before you start going into the other ones, you need to satisfy what we call the physiological needs, which is need for food, clothing, and shelter, before you start talking about self-belongingness, self-esteem, self-actualization, and all those things. So if you cannot really give somebody food, if somebody cannot cultivate, be able to go to the farm, the fear of insecurity that you can be killed. Because let's be sincere, farming is not the easiest thing in the world that you can do. A lot of people, somebody who is in administration, in office, actually looking at them in terms of organizing for the state and helping to manage to do this thing, does a more critical job anyway, but it's still more or less. But someone has to go to the farm, use the hoe, use the cutlass and whatever to dig, and now the person is fearing for their life. Because some of those people are mainly peasant people who live in the villages and in all those things. And it's totally maybe not a very good thing in Nigeria. And therefore, I find it very to be saying that it is very clear Buhari's government, Buhari himself, he lacks the willingness, the body language, the capacity to tackle insecurity in Nigeria. For the past 7.5 years, he has been one problem to the other, and he is not visible. He doesn't really maybe appear. He doesn't issue press conferences to talk about maybe what people are suffering. Sometimes when you look at him, he looks like he is not even getting those information that people are saying. That is why some people will say, are claiming that he is not the one. Some people are saying he's one. There's a lot of theories going around. But what we're having in Nigeria is that a lot of people are suffering in Nigeria, languishing in abject poverty, insecurity, even people who are traveling on the road, people who are staying in their house, people are going into a lot of things. And it's because of the poverty, the routine of Nigeria treasuries that has actually happened that made a lot of people to go into banditry, and a lot of things are happening. There is lawlessness in the country and everything. So it's quite very annoying, and it's very bad, and we hope that we can get it right in 2023. And that is my hope for Nigerians, because this APC and PDP government for 23.5 years, they have failed Nigerians because they have looted Nigerian treasury dry, and that is what is causing these insecurities. So they don't have the will to tackle it. Buhari is a failed president, and he is very bad.
All right, interesting that we know that we're talking about President Muhammad Buhari, but something interesting happened yesterday. He made a statement when the National Peace Committee team went to visit him. He met. when it comes to leadership, when I read this yesterday, it gladdened my heart a lot. You're a leadership consultant, so let's start with you on this one. President Goodluck Jonathan in 2015, until date, a lot of people still think that he shouldn't have given up the presidency, that he could have done there are so many things he could have done to hold on to power. But this man gave that up. This is Nigeria. There are ways to manipulate your way around things. And Goodluck Jonathan gave that up, irrespective of the fact that his people would call out to him. You remember Orubebe at the International Conference Center saying, "We no go green, we no go green." But this man since 2015 has done nothing but stay up to the game as a true leader, as a leadership expert, as a matter of fact. From nationally and internationally, and coming to history, like people literally bought funds for him. Say, come and contest in the APC and all of that. He literally removed himself from that, and today he is being honored by the former present administration as one of the people that ushered in the peace we now see within the political sector. But you should give us your take on this.
Thank you. Yes, he did that during when the thing is that if you are civil and if you are well informed, you're a civil man, you have to accept defeat. It is only people who are not civil and who doesn't stand straight sometimes when they know that the game is up that will keep on fighting, like what the Rivers State governor is currently doing at the moment. You know, he's gonna keep on fighting, but Goodluck is a little bit opposite of that. Before the 2015 election, you know, at that point in time when the Rubebe was making that things, thinking that maybe Jonathan is gonna give order and they're gonna disrupt. One of the good things that Jonathan did, you know, which is kind of people are celebrating and forgetting the ills of Jonathan's administration that led us into this mess that we are. Because yes, he was defeated, he handed over, he accepted defeat. But let's not forget that under Jonathan, Nigerians' treasury was looted and the people were milking Nigerians' money. At Desan, Alice, and Madueke, there was money sharing, Dasuki, issues everywhere. There was an allegation of $20 billion or whatever missing from CBN, which led to the then CBN governor being suspended because he said that money has not been remitted from NNPC to CBN and those kind of things. As a sitting president, instead of you to kind of put up a panel or something to look into it, you know, they ended up suspending the man. Now, what made him to lose the election was because the 7 governors fought against him and they went to align with APC. And at that point in time, you know, when you lose those 7 governors of key states like Sokoto, Kanu, and those things, you know, he probably made him to lose the election. Now, as he was a PDP president, he lost. Now, since he lost the election, there has been a lot of things going on in Nigeria. Jonathan doesn't really... he wasn't playing a politics of maybe I'm a PDP president, I lost the election, maybe attacking the APC to show maybe that this is what I'm supposed to be doing as a then president and this one is not doing it now. But of late, towards the primaries, he started doing a body language, whether he wants to contest, he doesn't want to contest. Some people claim to have bought form for him and those kind of things. Jonathan, when you look at him, you know, he looks like a good man. He looks like a nice guy. He looks like somebody who is distant. But there is difference between being a good person and a good leader. In terms of leadership, you know, Jonathan wasn't a good leader, but you can claim to be a good man. He can be a statesman. That's okay. But if he was a good leader, money will not be stolen under his watch. Nigeria, this APC, this Buhari, this mess we are in now, Buhari has no place in the 21st century in Nigeria governance if Jonathan was straight to Nigeria, did what he's supposed to do, because the mantra that he ran in 2011 after the election that he used to have one shoe and those kind of things wasn't what he upheld. But because he's a good man, he listened to a lot of nonsense from a lot of people and the people destroy his government. Because this is what is in leadership. If you're a leader, you have to understand the difference between being a servant leader, being ethical leader, being authentic leader, and being a transformative leader as well. You have to bring all of them into the show. You need to know what to listen to. You need to know what to do. And it's not about maybe what people are telling you. Sometimes you might do the right thing. It might be the wrong thing for some people. Sometimes you might take the right action. But it's not about listening to people. Just maybe following them sheepishly. Yeah, but People who are close to him will tell you that he listening to whatever. He looks confused in terms of leadership. I'm not insulting him, but this is what led us to where we are. Because after coming out from Obasanjo, went to Yar'Adua, then Jonathan took over, and we started thinking that maybe Nigeria is taking off a little bit. Yes, the economy was growing, but the poverty level for people wasn't actually doing, because we have few people who were not accountable, who were not there's no check and balance in terms of maybe overseeing those people he appointed to make sure that those people are actually doing what he's supposed to do. Yes, he's still been kind of covered. Whether he was part of those corruption is one of the things that they don't tell us. Like when Buhari will leave office, I will tell you they might go after the people who work under Buhari, but there is this kind of thing that they don't want to go after the GCON or GC whatever FN or whatever they call it, because maybe the chief executive, maybe they sign a contract inside which we don't know. Because when Obasanjo finished, nobody went after him. Jonathan finished, nobody went after him. They only go round and round and say that the wife has siphoned this money, this minister did this minister did this. So Jonathan, in my own self and Nigerians, in as much as he handed over to Buhari, he's not really that maybe that sent or somebody that he plunged us into this problem because of his inactions. Don't forget that one of the things that he started doing is the fight that he had with the then governor of Rivers State, Rotimi Amechi, for refusing him to seek second re-election as chairman Governors Forum. And even when Amechi defeated the Jonah Jang of Plateau State with 19 against 16 votes, the people confusing Jonathan still tell him that it's Jonah Jang that won the election, and that led to them forming PDP Governors Forum, which was led by Akpabio at that point in time. But what is happening now, we can applaud him for obviously handing over, and that is one of the things as well we can also get from Buhari. We are seeking he signed the Electoral Act of 2022, and they will pray that he will give us a credible and fair election, because Jonathan obviously his party wanted to win the election, and when they were rigged out, because they were rigged out actually, because the rigging machines of PDP went to rig for APC. That is why they won, because it's not a fair and fair election.
Okay, so we can call him a statesman.
Yeah, he's a statesman. He was a former president. He's a statesman. He has a lot to do. Yeah. I believe he's a good statesman, but a bad leader.
Oh, all right. Ring sense.
That's my own thing.
He's a statesman, he's a bad leader. But of course, right now we're heading into the 2023 election, and this has to do with the peace that we need come 2023. What lessons do you think those who are contesting for the election will need to learn from the statesman Goodluck Jonathan as we head into 2023?
Please.
Well, as we always say here in the Atlantic Television Network, peace is the pathway to progress, and I strongly believe that peace is the pathway to progress. And if we are all yearning for progress as a country, everybody must yield to peace. In a society where there's anarchy, you cannot have any meaningful development, and that is why it is essential that all of the presidential candidates, all of the aspirants or the candidates of all political parties in every level gets to yield to peace. And I want to commend the conveners of the committee for setting this peace accord for presidential candidates. I want it to also trickle down to the states, and I want it to trickle down to the constituencies. It's unfortunate that here in Rivers State, there was a peace summit which had candidates of different political parties come to, align to the move of the time that they would, yield to peace. They were going to mind what they say in public. They wouldn't say things that will elicit reactions and cause chaos. And recall that the governor, sorry I'm bringing this in, recall that the governor of Rivers State had raised an alarm that there are certain persons who had started perpetrating some illicit plans, to disrupt the peace in the states. And I recall that one of the candidates, precisely the candidate of the Social Democratic Party, Senator Magnus Abe, asked for a peace summit, and that the governor should call for a peace summit. That has not been done. But some patriotic Rivers indigents came up with the initiative for a peace summit. All of the governorship candidates of other political parties were in attendance of that peace summit. They signed in agreement to peace in the course of the election. But the unfortunate thing is that we didn't even see the governorship candidate of the People's Democratic Party, who is from the extraction where the governor raised an alarm that people were attempting to disrupt the peace of the state. We didn't see the governorship candidate of his party. We didn't see the deputy governorship candidate of his party in that meeting, whereas every other person from other political parties came and they signed to the peace accord. It gives us concern. One is now wondering, I draw this illustration. One is wondering, illustration to the Jonathan's Act in 2015, should the People's Democratic Party in Rivers State, which is the ruling party, lose the election in 2023, would there be peace in Rivers State? And because we must be very particular in the instances we make. Good enough, the presidential candidates have signed to the peace accord, and every political party was duly represented. I saw Atiku Abubakar there. I saw Tinubu being represented by his vice, and of course the party chairman was there. I saw Peter B himself there, Showore and the rest of them.
Yes.
Here in Rivers State, to be precise, that sort of a thing was done. We didn't see the governorship candidates of the ruling party, not the deputy. And there was no notification to the public why he abstained from such a vital thing, which is supposed to be in consonance with the alarm that the state governor raised. So the illustration here brings us to the understanding and the question that if the ruling party in Rivers State loses this 2023 election, would there be peace in the state? Would they behave, would the governor behave, because he's the one living now, as the major actor, would he behave the way Jonathan behaved? Well, if we have the interest of the country and the state at heart, then we must understand that peace is the pathway to progress.
Well, Joe, it's good you're putting all of this, but man, you just scared some of us who are watching and listening to me right now. And that's the gospel truth. If what is playing out in the PDP after he lost out on the presidential ticket and the vice presidential ticket, he just said they were not at the party. The peace summit organized by some members of residents of Rivers State. So I'm asking everyone now, should we go into fasting and prayer for Rivers State? If he should lose, will there be peace in the state? We don't know what's going to happen because see what is going on in the PDP right now. But because of our time, let's get into something else real quickly. So elections will be based on commitment to secure, to unite and build cohesion in Nigeria. That's Peter Obi talking about 2023 election. That's after meeting with Governor Seyi Makinde of Oyo State on Thursday. He spoke with the press. Mr. Obi said 2023 election will not be based on ethnicity, religion, and connection. Rather, it will be based on commitment to start doing things the right way, to secure, to unite, and to build cohesion in Nigeria. Mr. Obi noted that the monetization of Nigeria's political space contributed to some of the challenges confronting the nation. He said these monies that they are sharing is why there is joblessness in Nigeria today. So he said this is the money that should have been used to do what is right, to improve human capital, to invest in education and in health. Well, here we are, money politics. We're going to look at INEC real quick because that's necessary. We're looking at money politics in Nigeria. Now that there are no incidents, do you still think we will have money politics playing out?
Pretty much, I totally agree with the presidential candidate of the Labour Party because these funds people are throwing around. You want to ask Christians, you work and earn money. And with the labor you put into earn that money, you're forced to manage your resources in a very reasonable way. You don't just throw money around. As much as you want to help people, you don't just throw money around. But in this case, it's not even about helping people. It's about vote buying. It's about defaulting even at the Electoral Act, trying to buy people to your side, for them to support you. I think that for a long time we have played this money politics and it has not helped anybody. It does not help Nigeria, it does not help nobody. And what the presidential candidate of Labour Party is saying, that these monies that are being given to people as piecemeal is supposed to be put into the development of the country, improving a sector. In Nigeria, you really would say there's a balanced sector. There's no sector you point at to say this is a stable sector that can compete favorably with the same sectors of the same kinds rather in other societies. You want to look at the petroleum sector in Nigeria. How can we compete favorably with other countries? You want to look at the power sector. How can we compete favorably with even other African countries? You want to look at our education sector. How can we compete favorably with other countries? So I am in support of the opinion that these monies would have been used to build stable sectors, institutions in this country. And money politics has not helped us. I want to speak to Nigerian voters. I want to speak to those listening. If you ever come across this video and this interview, please, you have a burden on you to do what is right. You have a responsibility to ensure that you shun this money politics. And the first time in this country, for the first time, we would have to do what is right. We'll have to support candidates based on their competence. We should begin to ask questions. What is the pedigree of this person? What have you done before? What impact have you made to the society? When you begin to analyze their background, you would be inclined to the right person to vote. And in doing so, that's patronage and loyalty to the country. And that will lead us to, that economic Eldorado we desire as a people. So this is the time to make analysis. This is the time to look at people's past records. And that should form the basis for whom we will support in the 2023 general elections. So I quite agree with the candidate of the Labour Party.
All right, thank you, Mr. Peter Obi. You got someone agreeing with you on that, but I'll come to you, Vincent and Ray. Speaking of money politics, let's really look at one of the outcomes of the peace accord that was signed yesterday. So INEC Chairman Professor Mahmood Yakubu at the National Peace Committee Peace Pact signing by political parties and actors yesterday said the implication of the peace pact signed by political parties is that for the next 148 days, political parties, candidates, and their supporters are free to traverse the country, holding meetings, rallies, processions, and door-to-door campaigns. He said the will grant interviews, sponsor indoor and outdoor advertisements, and publish other campaign materials. This is often a delicate period characterized by excitement and anxiety. So he said, in line with provisions of the Electoral Act 2022, and in their determination as an organization to play their role as a regulator, the commission, that's INEC, will vigorously monitor compliance. So to ensure that parties shun abusive, interpret, or slanderous language, as well as insinuations or innuendos likely to provoke a breach of the peace during the electioneering campaigns. He says, similarly, the Commission will also closely monitor compliance with the limits on campaign spending under the Electoral Act. There are sanctions provided by law. Political parties and candidates should study and familiarize themselves with the electoral legal framework to avoid any infraction of the law and the unhappy consequences that will follow any act of misdemeanor. So Professor Yakubu said, or rather urged all political party candidates to show appreciation to the work of the National Peace Committee by abiding and showing commitment to the peace accord that they have signed. He said, therefore, the commitment to peaceful and issue-based electioneering campaign should resonate beyond the 18-party chairman and presidential candidates present yesterday. But it is not enough to simply sign the peace accord. What is more important is to abide by its letter and spirit. He said, you should similarly pass the message to all your candidates, members, and supporters across the country for compliance. So this will be their way of showing appreciation for the work of the NPC and affirmation of their contribution to electoral peace in Nigeria. He also disclosed that the general election will be conducted for 1,491 constituencies nationwide, made up of the presidential constituencies, 28 governorship elections, 109 senatorial districts, 360 federal constituency, and 993 state assembly constituency. So he commended the chairman of the NPC, General Abdulsalam Abubakar, as well as the convener and members of the committee, saying INEC appreciated your partnership for peaceful elections. Vincent.
Yes. On the issue of electoral spending, how do you think that the commission will be able to keep track with the spending of these political parties as we head into this election? Because of course political parties will definitely spend money, and in some instances they may spend above the limit, but how would INEC keep track and ensure that people don't spend above the limit?
I think what's going to happen is that the statement that INEC issued is very timely. They are trying to assure Nigerians and they reassure them of their readiness in terms of helping to make sure that we have a peaceful and free and fair election. And this is what is quite very acceptable and commendable from them. Because if you listen, anyone who listened to Mahmoud yesterday and Professor Yakubu Mahmoud yesterday, the whole thing is like maybe a father talking to the children, trying to read those riot act, advising them, soliciting with them, begging them, telling them. And if anyone, if those political parties, the candidates and whatever can take those things and understand it, if only everybody can play by those rules, by those advice, we will have peace, we will have justice, and we will have a free and a sellable. But the problem is that most of those politicians who has made the milking and the stealing Nigerians' money their daily bread, their daily activities, are bent on doing something. It goes into one ear, it doesn't even go in. It just try to hit the ear and it flies off. So they have have their own plans and their own things that they want to do. And then they have those candidates and the leaders on one side and their own followers who some of them are even worse than those leaders and those candidates, because there are some followers who will even go and cap their own ways and do things that they are not even they have not even been asked to do. But in terms of maybe Nigerians, because money-back politics is quite a very big issue, is a serious cankerworm that has been destroying the nations. And what the majority of the masses and the followers doesn't understand is that this money we are talking about is Nigerians' money, people's money. Those people basically have taken those money, have stolen those money, and now during the election, they come and give you a tip of it. Now, the tip they give you from your money that has been taken, and you start singing praises and start jumping around for them. Because our people's mindset has been so messed up that they don't really understand that it is their money, it is their wealth that those people have cornered, have taken. Because it's a kind of a situation whereby a thief comes to your house and steals your money, and now it goes out and comes back and they start saying, oh, did they somebody come here and give you a little bit and compensate you to leave your door open to be able to come back again? And they give you advice. So, but if Nigerians, majority of the masses can actually look inwardly and look very well, they will ask themselves, these people who are called politicians, how did they make their money? Have they been in government and they're milking the money of the state and they may be giving you a little bit of it? Because we need to maybe be able to educate the people to understand that the opportunity those people you call leaders have as well is also the same opportunity you as an individual have. And towards this 2023 election, people can actually begin to show money politics. Because like you said, the presidential candidate of Labour Party, I think he's been a little bit of consistent in terms of using that 2023 election is going to be about competence, capacity, courage, conviction, and those things that he's talking about. That is going to be about people determining their future. And I hope so. I'm optimistic, I'm not a pessimistic. I'm not a pessimist. But I believe that the things is going to happen and the things is going to change, because we can only hope. Hope is the only thing that you can give to a hopeless person to be able to start coming out of their hopelessness. Because a lot of Nigerians are living hopelessly because of this bad governance, abject poverty, a lot of insecurity, and a lot of things that is happening. And the people, whoever that is watching this, you shouldn't see those politicians as heroes. They are not heroes. If you make your money judiciously in a public sector, on your own, and somebody go to your village to give people money, that is fine. They should worship you. But not when a politician construct one road or maybe put the electricity with the state money, the federal money or something like that, to start thinking that the person has done a lot for you. The person hasn't really done anything for you much apart from what they're supposed to do. But the problem is that when they even do those projects, they still steal money from those projects, because they can do a project of 1 billion and say it's 5 billion. And now at the end of the day, you are thanking them and appreciating them. But at the end, what we want to do in this 2023 is hopefully INEC will be able to deliver a credible and a fair election. Make sure that they are not compromised by the ruling party in any state, because it could be the ruling party for the federal election, it could be the ruling party in any state or something like that. So we make sure that the people also vote and they defend their vote. And the issue of the CUPP alarm that a lot of things has been compromised, that they are putting a lot of things into it, and I should look into it and make sure that this election is not scuttled by a disgruntled element, because Nigerians and the people need a decent life. The country is becoming a failed state, is decaying, and things is not going forward. Nigerian people are languishing, and we need to start knowing how we can help those people and make sure we get it right in 2023.
The issue about money politics and the role of INEC after the peace accord, we just talked about vigorous monitoring to ensure compliance. A few days ago, INEC also came out to say that the two leading political parties, APC and PDP, that they have exceeded, I think, the 1 billion mark for election campaigns and all that. So here they are, yes, they say they are going to be monitoring to ensure compliance. Compliance is just in terms of fake news, false information, as the case may be, or using wrong language, or even individual attack. I step back again to what happened right at the scene of the peace accord yesterday. Yeah. We saw Omoyele Sowore literally going at Al-Mustafa. That's, to the best of my knowledge, was uncalled for. So when that scene started, one would expect that INEC, you're talking about compliance. Can we have you begin to address Omoyele Sowore, for instance? Because that's not a court of law.
You know, this thing you clearly pointed out makes me want to doubt the readiness of INEC in this direction. Because I ordinarily expected that if you want to curb excess spending during the campaigns, then you would have to get the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission involved in what you're doing. I haven't seen pretty much partnership between the INEC and the EFCC. So how would the INEC, does the INEC have an enforcement department, to go after, persons who seemingly may have defaulted on the Electoral Act? They certainly don't. So I expected this robust partnership between the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission and the police force. And they're supposed to have sensitizations, and I expected them there to sign some kind of agreement in going after political parties that fail. So clearly you would see that what INEC is saying may not be, they may not be able to achieve it, because what are the dynamics? How do you even know when a political party have gone beyond their spending? It is not clearly stated. So you may not be able to curb excess spending. And then secondly, talking about what Sowore did at the scene, it's instantly he would have gotten a query from INEC, a warning from INEC. And it wasn't even just to Mustafa. It was, verbally attacking the vice presidential candidate of the All Progressives Congress, saying that he wouldn't have allowed him, if he had sat there, he wouldn't have stood up for him, because he's not the one that's supposed to sit. He is just the vice presidential candidate, and he should have been Bola Ahmed Tinubu. Listen, that's a joint ticket. So in the absence of the presidential candidate, the vice can stand in for the presidential candidate. And besides that, there were requirements. If the presidential candidate cannot make it, the vice has to be there. And then the party chairman, national chairman of the party, would also have to be there, which, he was. So that verbal attack was not necessary. And that's a default already to the Electoral Act. In fact, that's a default to the peace accord you just signed, because you don't come at your colleagues, fellow candidates, and begin to. That's not what makes you an activist. It doesn't make you reasonable. And the actions of people like Sowore has made people misjudge the youths. They easily say youths are not coordinated. They don't know how to, go about issues in a diplomatic way. That was not reasonable. To him, that's a strategy. But that's a poor thinking. You can't demarket the party by doing that. So it makes us want to doubt the ability of INEC in this regard, to be able to, ensure that they curb excess spending, tame people in what they say. If at that scene where you have the national chairman seated, just a few minutes after signing the peace accord, that somebody begins to violate it and nothing is done, it means that this aspect of our strength is weak, and we're not yet sitting up to the responsibility of ensuring. However, I watched the interview of Senator Dino Melaye, who is the spokesman of the PCC of PDP. And I noticed that yesterday in this interview, he was a bit, he comported himself in a better than the previous ones he had. I believe that reasonable people are beginning to see reason why they have to act in a very mature way in public space. But I expect that INEC would query, issue query to yes, for that.
Well, we hope that they can live up to it in terms of monitoring and compliance. But before we go, a quick one, Ray. Do you think that INEC can act, that they have the mechanism to monitor campaign funding, or to ensure that political parties and their spokesperson and what have you have what it takes to manage their utterances and the information they push out to the public as it is?
I think if you can do anything, if they determine, if they want to do it, they can do it. Obviously, I think there is a 5 billion cap for presidential campaign and the 1 billion for governorship. It can be traceable through the accounts of the political party, through the accounts of the candidates themselves. And it can also be traceable through the accounts of people who are supporting them, their party leaders and whatever. It's a big work, but if they want to do it, it can be done. Because if money, people probably may be going to be moving money in their banks and in dollars and in pounds and whatever. It's definitely a big work. It's gonna be this thing. But if they prepare and if they determine, if they have the resource, which obviously I believe they have the resources, it's just the resourcefulness that is gonna be lacking. If they want to do it, they can do it, because for them to put 5 billion and the people are gonna go and spend 100 billion or 200 billion, it's not good for Nigerians, because at the end of the day, if those political parties end up spending those money, if those individuals end up spending those money, it is to the detriment of Nigerians, because when they get into the office, they want to steal those money back. They want to take those money back, whether the money comes from donors, whether it comes from supporters, whether it comes from friends and allies. Because at the moment, it's like the APC presidential campaign bringing about almost 400 and something people putting them, and some people are still saying that their name is not there. And somebody's going to be asking them, what are those 400 and something people going to be doing for you to prosecute a presidential campaign? It's too much. But these are a bunch of people who are lining up in case, if maybe he favors him, that are going to be looting Nigerians' money and Nigerians' treasury. And when you go and look at those lists, you will see them: past governors, past senators, past House of Reps, past this, past that. Those people are people that has run the country down. And the PDP, I think, haven't seen the list of their own, but I don't know whether it's up to those 400 we are talking about. But their own made a lot of waves, because there are people who say their name is not there. There are people who doesn't belong to their party that they put in. So, but I think INEC, if they determine to do it, they can do it. But it is it's gonna be hard. It's gonna be difficult, but it can be done.
We hope that it can be done. Thank you, Ray Kene-Budo, for joining us today on ATM Plot. It's always fun having to plot with you. Thank you once again.
Thank you, Vivian. Thank you, Vincent.
Yeah. And then thank you, Dumezo, for being here this morning. Again, we can't wait to have you back to Plot.
Always a privilege to be here. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you. And just before we go, Vincent, so let's have you signed out on your key points on the show this morning.
Well, Vivian, my key point is the issue raised by INEC. How the commission will be able to monitor. Because for me, I don't seem to see the possibility. I don't seem to see the structure or a mechanism put in place to actually monitor political parties. I know political parties will spend way beyond the limit, but I just look forward to see how INEC will be able to, keep track of this spending. And well, let's see how things will unfold.
All right, I'm just going to sound off on my big point this morning from other states' governor. Well, dear Dr. Okese Basu, I'll be sitting down here following you and monitoring to see how you are going to make the magic you couldn't make happen in 7 years in 1 month. That will be the biggest point in your government. If you're able to get area markets working, we better believe that we'll take back our words and everything we have ever said. So we'll be blowing out on it and following you. We'll have people in about monitoring and getting us information per day. So from beginning from today, day one, it's counting. We are monitoring to see that you get Ariara set up the way Ariara should be. And that's it on ATM Block of this morning. Thank you, everyone. It's been a great week having you all. We appreciate your comments and the conversations, suggestions, and all of that. Rest assured that do measure Samson and Ray Kene would like to hear from you. So let's continue the conversation on our social media platform. On Twitter, we are at Atlantic TV Net, on Facebook and YouTube, we are at Atlantic Television Network. On Instagram, we are at Atlantic TV Network. Do remember that peace and unity are always the pathway to progress. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Bye.